February the 12th, 2026. Guys, just a quick update. I've been looking at information that is coming out of El Paso. Remember the other day, a couple of days ago, they shut down airspace, they said for 10 days, which would be unprecedented. I don't think they shut it down that long during 9/11. But anyway, there's different information coming in, and a lot of it had to do with the laser. And the laser shot down an incoming balloon or something. That was the story going forward. And it's kind of some of the more of the information is coming out now. And what it looks like has happened, they're very powerful weapons now that have been delivered down to Fort Bliss in the El Paso area. And they're huge laser weapons. One blast can just cut the wing off of an airliner with no explosion. It just falls off. One blast. And what it looks like has happened down there, guys, is these systems are set up, and there's a video, and I'm going to link it to you. And this is just a image from that video. It talks about how this LOCUST system works. It's out of Virginia, and they are delivering it out now. But it appears that this thing was activated the other day when this airspace was shut down temporarily. Then they quickly reopened it. But it appears that some of the safety mechanisms did not work. And there's several that are not just mechanisms, but are plans. In other words, if this thing's fired, it has to be on a downrange angle. It can't be where it would fire across the city, because the laser beam doesn't quit until it hits something. In other words, if you were on the mountain, you shot it right across the city, it would cut through. It'd cut a hole in the first building and just continue cutting holes. So all of the training, all of the testing is in a downhill range to where if it passes through the object that they're testing or working with, it has to be where there's a mountain or something behind it that would intercept the beam eventually. And it has to be several other safety mechanisms involved. First of all, this thing comes equipped with multiple radar systems. In other words, it can detect whether it's a weather balloon, or it can detect whether it's a drone or a plane by the signatures. And then it quickly, using AI technology, calculates that, and then you got controllers. And I don't know how quickly they work together, but something went wrong. And some were saying it was a weather balloon, some were saying it was a party balloon coming in from possibly Juarez across the river. Anyway, the thing activated, again, AI control, shot a beam all the way across all the incoming airspace. Now, I told you the other day in the story when this first came out that I'd been to El Paso and accidentally crossed the bridge over into Juarez. And guys, El Paso and Juarez is a big bowl with the river in the middle. So anything fired from Fort Bliss would go over quite a bit of area. And I don't know if it would hit the mountains or not, but there's an extreme amount of incoming traffic, air traffic. And so we don't know exactly what happened to any of the objects that were flying in there. I haven't seen any reports about it, but it seems like an AI control system has taken control of the most powerful laser on the planet. As far as I know, the U.S. is the only people that have the LOCUST, and possibly some of this has been transferred, guys, to Israel. You know how that works, right? But the entire video on how the system works is about 7 or 8 minutes. I'm going to link it in here. But it looks like we're seeing the first takeover, possibly, by AI of some of the most sophisticated equipment on the planet. Now, I also know this. I saw that back when the Israeli war started, the last one out of many, but the last one where the hostages were taken and they come into that big dance party they were having. Anyway, that the strikes, the missile strikes that Israel was using to try to take out different locations in the Gaza Strip, guys, was all controlled by AI. In other words, detectors were picking up movements here and there, and it was telling the missile guidance systems where to fire it. And that was planned. That was not an accident. Now, and we're seeing the rapid advancement of AI. Another thing that comes to mind, just while we're talking about it, is the fact that the Department of War is hell-bent on getting the space fleet or space force in place. Is that because of multiple satellites from different countries, Russia and China, etc., that could control AI or can control some of these weapons via AI and hack into the systems and turn them against the country that had them? We don't know yet, but there's an intense rush. You saw the new thing coming up in Huntsville, Alabama, and all that, because there's a movement going on. When I saw an interview last week where Trump was talking about the space race, space fleet, space force, and the use of AI, and all of the energy centers that were being built and how much energy they consumed and the water they consumed, his face turned very serious. Some of you guys may have saw it. It was an interview, just him and a reporter, and his face turned very serious. He said, this is a very serious situation that we're dealing with, and we have to stay on top of it. In other words, in my, again, opinion, in watching him and looking at the information we have, he is very concerned that other nations are about to take over AI with their data centers and control the military, the satellites, and everything. And so he's willing to sacrifice the welfare of many people, because the data centers are very detrimental to the environment and the people and everything else. They use up precious water and, of course, a lot of electricity. The noise is deafening and the people are getting sick. So it's like there's a price we have to pay, guys, in order to prevent complete disaster. But again, during this rush, are there already leaks starting to happen? Don't know, guys. We're watching it, but I have heard about this laser, and it was, I think 2 of them were brought into El Paso. And again, the radar is so ultra sophisticated, and there's so many safety keys in a stage and a process to even fire one of these things. You don't just walk up and push a button. Because they're so dangerous, and they have that light will go forever and cut anything in half. And it's about 800,000 times the laser beam, you know, the ones that people get in trouble with if they have those handheld lasers and they get locked up or something because they shined them up at a helicopter or a plane. These lasers are 20 megawatts, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's kilowatts. Anyway, it's 800,000 times the power of a handheld laser. And they would go into infinity, into space. If you pointed it up, it eventually would take out some Starlink satellites, as many as they are. Anyway, wanted to come here and just talk about this situation because we're seeing all the key components leading into major confrontation, problems already happening with some of this equipment. So when this thing blasted off, they didn't know what the hell happened, I don't think, guys, because immediately they called a 10-day air traffic shutdown till they had it under control, figure out what had happened. Maybe they just went and turned everything off with these 2 systems and opened back up the airspace. It's hard to say. Again, the video will be in the link, and it's a full video on these LOCUST systems, how they operate, some of their... They can go on big trucks, and they have these, it looks like dune buggies, kind of like big 4-wheelers with equipment, radar, and everything mounted on them. So a couple of guys could be, you know, like a desert rat patrol with these lasers. And even on the bigger trucks. Again, we're watching it. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.